Hey guys, Michael here. Today we're going to be discussing UFC Vegas 26 picks and predictions. So we might start with the main event, Waterson and Marina Rodriguez. Obviously, it was meant to be Dillashaw and Sandhagen. So both fighters have taken this on short notice, and normally they're in the strawweight division, but they're fighting at the flyweight division. So this might change a few things. Obviously, neither fighter has to cut down the same amount of weight, and that may play into one fighter's advantage over the other. In terms of Michelle Waterson and her last fight, she fought against Angela Hill. She definitely lost the first 2 rounds on the feet. Angela Hill was really pacing her up quite nicely, but she did come back in the 3rd round with a really strong takedown, showing her ground game against Hill. And she even probably won the striking in the 4th and the 5th round. So I think for Waterson, she's probably going to have to try and draw this fight out for as long as she can. I don't think she can stand there in the pocket for the first couple of rounds trying to strike with Marina Rodriguez. I think that might be a recipe for disaster if she decides to do that. Marina Rodriguez has a lot more power in her hands compared to Waterson, I feel. And so I think Rodriguez is going to be going out there looking to finish this fight early. Now, Marina Rodriguez fought Amanda Ribas in her last round. Generally, in that first round, she got taken down, and Ribas is a really good ground fighter, but Rodriguez couldn't even get back up in that first round. So if Waterson can, I guess, exploit that, that is something else that Waterson should probably look at doing to get the fight through all 5 rounds. But as we know, Rodriguez has he's really powerful for the weight class, and they're fighting at an even higher weight division. So we may find that her punches are even harder, really. So she landed a right hand against Hibas, wobbled her. Some people thought it was a bit controversial, the stoppage, thinking that, should have stopped it or didn't really need to stop it. She went back in because Herb Dean kind of stepped in, but he actually didn't touch her. She thought it was finished. She went back in, finished off Hiba. So I think Marina Rodriguez, if she really wants to win this fight, she's probably going to have to look at finishing Waterson off earlier rather than later. So I'm going to be going with Marina Rodriguez just because I feel as though on short notice, I think she's got the advantage going into the fight. So I'm going to go with her by knockout or TKO in the 3rd round, I believe. Our next fight is quite interesting. Again, another short notice fight for Alex Morono and Donald Cerrone. So both have fought Anthony Pettis and both have fought Nico Price. So I've gone back and looked through those fights just to see how each fared against each of those fighters. So against Pettis, Cerrone got a takedown early in the first. Pettis was piecing him up on the feet. He got a late takedown, but it was much of the same in the second. And Pettis was landing kicks and combos with his hands. In the 3rd round, Pettis was piecing him up again. Cerrone's able to land some punches and kicks. Cerrone does tend to get better as the fight goes on. He landed a big high kick against Pettis, but ultimately the fight probably wasn't particularly close. Both have fought Nico Price as well, and both had it ruled a no contest due to Nico Price testing positive for illicit substances. Nico Price landed some really big shots in the first as well against Cerrone and started to land his own combos later in the first against Price. He had a couple of eye pokes from Price, and Price lost the point for that. So the 2nd round was closer. Nico Price probably still won that round, I felt, but then it ended up being a draw. And then ruled a no contest. So I feel as though Cerrone has been on a bit of a losing streak, but the caliber of fighter has been quite good. So he hasn't been fighting against, just guys off the couch. He's been fighting against some really high level fighters. But Cerrone is getting older, and I guess that's the question and the theme of this fight. Is Cerrone getting old to a point where he can't match it with these guys? Or has he just been fighting really high level competition and therefore that's why he hasn't been winning? In terms of Alex Morono, he started strong against Pettis, managed to even cut him open in the first round on the ground. So he's a really strong grappler. On the feet, not as commanding, but he's always got that puncher's chance. He looked okay against Pettis. He wasn't getting pieced up quite like Cerrone was. In the second round, he was chasing Pettis around. Pettis was able to kind of stand, land a couple, move, and was using that to his advantage. So going into the third, it was, probably a round apiece. And in that third round, it was still pretty close. But ultimately, Pettis probably controlled that fight. You could see that Morono was getting a bit tired and got wobbled. And the third round, Pettis ended up stealing the fight. So looking at it, Morono's taken this fight on short notice. But with Cerrone meant to be fighting Diego Sanchez, it's also kind of a short notice fight for him. I feel as though, looking through their past fights, I'm going to take Morano here with my underdog pick of the night. I'm always going to go for an underdog pick each main card. So I think Morano might be able to get it done. He just looked better against Pettis than Cerrone. And I feel as though if Morano can get this to the ground, I feel like he has the upper hand against Cerrone. The third fight, we've got Neal Magny and Jeff Neal. So Jeff Neal's coming off a loss against Wonderboy. Wonderboy's no slouch, and that is a really big fight to be taking in this point in, I'd say, Jeff Neal's career. He took a fair bit of damage. So Jeff Neal's known as a striker and a stand-up fighter, but he got outdone against Wonderboy, which, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing because Wonderboy is an elite striker, but Jeff Neal's bread and butter is striking as well. So it's just interesting to see that he really got pieced up and took a lot of damage against Wonderboy. Neal Magny is an all-around good fighter. He's coming off a loss against Chiesa. And Neal Magny is one of those guys where if you're a really good striker, he's probably going to take it to the ground. If you're a really good ground fighter, he's probably going to try and keep you on the feet. So just looking at the fight, I've just got a feeling Jeff Neal is going to get this done. Jeff Neal is a really good fighter. I think he's an up-and-coming kind of guy. Like Neal Magny, you never know what you're going to get, but I feel as though Jeff Neal will get the job done. In the next fight, we've got Marcos Rodrigo de Lima versus Maurice Greene. Now, de Lima was kind of dominated on the ground and submitted by Romanov in his last fight. And it was an interesting submission. He basically put his forearm into his throat and choked him out. So, which you don't often see. But he threw some really good, powerful shots on the feet. He looked a lot better than Romanov on the feet. And he's really powerful. Like, he doesn't just throw one punch. He throws nice combinations. If that fight stays on the feet, he probably picks Romanov apart and gets the victory and hands him his first loss. So he looked really commanding on the feet there. Maurice Greene is an interesting one. He's knocked out by Greg Hardy. Now, he did complain after the fight to Herb Dean saying he was moving and defending himself. But Hardy did knock him down. And as we know, Hardy isn't a lifelong martial artist. Neither is Greene, though. Greene started at the age of 25. So I think this is a little bit more black and white. I think De Lima's got more experience. He's going to be more powerful with his hands. I think De Lima gets this done and should get it done. I don't see Maurice Greene giving him much of a fight. I could be wrong, but I think De Lima really gets this done in an assertive fashion. This one is another interesting fight. This is a really interesting card, to be honest, overall, which we'll talk about at the end. But Gregor Gillespie versus Ferreira. So Gillespie was knocked out via head kick against Kevin Lee for his first loss. And at that point, Gillespie probably hadn't fought anyone like one of the bigger names in the division. So people weren't too sure what to expect from him. I think some people are really high on him, others not so much. he looked quite good on his feet considering up until that point. I mean, Lee probably had the advantage striking, and he actually looked quite good with Lee, landing, you know, some really nice jabs, some really good hands. But we obviously saw the advantage of Lee striking and knocked him out. And that was a big knockout with that head kick. So, as we know, Gillespie is more of a wrestler, more of a grappler. He may have made some improvements in that striking department. Ferreira is a really good all-round fighter. He's coming off a bit of a controversial win. Many people thought that he lost his last fight. Now, he probably has the advantage in terms of jiu-jitsu, obviously. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's quite a good striker as well. Now, before the fight, if you'd asked me, you know, if Gillespie ends up on his back against Ferreira, you'd probably say Gillespie will lose that. But Ferreira's come in and he's missed weight by 4.5 pounds. So that's a lot of weight, and 30% of his purse is going to Gillespie. So I think if Gillespie can just push the pace, Diego Ferreira might be in a bit of trouble. I'm not sure what's happened with this camp. I'm not sure if he's been, you know, unprofessional, or I don't think he's an unprofessional guy in general, or maybe there's something going on in the background that we're not aware of. So there are a few red flags in terms of what's going on with Diego Ferreira. So I'm going to go with Gillespie just based on the weigh-in, and I probably have Gillespie before the weigh-in, but it's not a good sign based on that weigh-in. Sometimes I get lucky, but I just don't think that Ferreira's going to get it done. I just don't think he's fit enough. Now, for the final fight, we've got Amanda Ribas versus Angela Hill. So, we'll start off with Hill. We already sort of touched on it before with Waterson. So she started off quite well. She looked really good on her feet, looked to use a hand, crowd Waterson's kicks. The second round, she was striking really well as well, but you could see as the third, fourth, fifth round came, she started to, I guess, reduce her volume in striking, and Waterson started to, I guess, got a good takedown and then started to piece her up. The thing is, Ribas is a grappler, a really, really good grappler. And as we know, Hill is not much of a grappler at all. She's not great on the ground. But you could argue that Ribas is not that good on her feet. So in her last fight against Rodriguez, we saw she dominated the first round, but as soon as it came to the feet, she got knocked out. So this is kind of a opposite ends of the spectrums in terms of the fight. If Ribas is going to win, it's going to be on the ground, and if Hill's going to win, it's going to be from the stand-up point. So I honestly think that Ribas is going to get this takedown and dominate on the ground. I just think Hill does have a good chance, but I'm going to go with Ribas just based on, I feel like she would have made some adjustments in terms of that striking and just making sure that she secures a takedown. So those are my picks, guys. I don't want to keep you guys' time too long, so we try to keep it as short as possible. But to reiterate, I've got Rodriguez, Morano, then we've got Neal, we've got Lima, we've got Gregor Gillespie, and then we've got Hiba. So our upsets, Morano, all the rest I think are coming in as the favourite, and for good reason. So if you guys want to see what ends up happening with my picks, be sure to look out for the recap and review. Who knows? Maybe we get them all wrong. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.